What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today I'm going to show you how to mine Warthog. Now, for this particular guide, you will need to have experience with Linux command line, and today we're going to go over how you can get that set up. Now, if you're running a Windows 10 or Windows 11 device, you can actually do virtualization for free without downloading any additional software by enabling some features within the operating system itself. To do this, you can search for HyperV. And what will come up, you won't have the HyperV manager here, but you will have turn Windows features on or off. You're going to click this and then scroll down to the HyperV option and check the box and click OK. Once you've done that, it will need to reboot the system to enable HyperV, but then you will have access to HyperV. On the next boot, when you enter the OS and log in, you can search HyperV, and now you will have HyperV manager enabled. In the case that you do not or are not able to enable that feature, it more than likely means you need to enable virtualization in your BIOS, and you need to search that for your particular motherboard. Now that we have HyperV installed, what we are going to want to do is install a version of Ubuntu. Now you can do a quick Google search for Ubuntu server, and it should be like the first one up here, and we'll click into it, and then you can download 22.04.4 and that LTS image. So from this point on, we're going to create a new virtual machine. We'll right click our host and say new and virtual machine. You will click next, name your virtual machine, and then click next again. Select Gen 2 for 64-bit operating systems because we aren't going to use anything more. You can leave startup memory at the 4 gigabytes. That'll be fine. You want to select a default switch for your connection, then click next again. You really don't need a ton of data for this particular drive. I'll leave it to the default 120, but I think at this point you can even get away with a pretty small, like 60 gigabyte drive. There's not a ton of data on this particular blockchain yet. It's really up to you. You can go ahead and ask in their Discord what the current requirement is at the time of building it, just so you have enough space on your system. So at this point, we're going to click next and select the install an operating system from a bootable image file, and then click the browse button and find the Ubuntu 22.04 ISO that you downloaded from the website, and then select that. At this point, you'll click next and then finish. You can see here that it is created and in the off state. Powering it on will not work right away. You need to adjust more settings. So right click and select settings, and then go down to your security option and uncheck enable secure boot. There are options for enabling secure boot with Linux, but we aren't planning on really having this on all the time. So just disable secure boot. It'll be fine. It'll go through. You can adjust processors too. We don't really need 14 processors. You can go down to 8 or 4, even 2. It's really not that demanding of an application. I'll leave it at 8 just so that it's maybe a little bit quicker with decompressing right now for the sake of brevity of the tutorial. We're going to go ahead and click OK. Right click and say connect. And then this little screen will come up, and we're going to click the start button. At this point, it's going to say, do you want to try or install Ubuntu? We're going to go ahead and click enter, and then it will go through the process, and eventually it will go ahead and start asking for more information on the install process that we wish to proceed with. At this point, we will select English, and we will say continue without updating because we're going to patch it afterwards anyways. We're going to say done, and then we're going to leave this particular ETH0 on. You could set a static if you want. I'm not going to for right now. We're going to click done, done, and then it's going to test the mirror for the download, and then we can say done as well. We'll tell it to use the entire disk and select done. You can adjust, the partitions if you wish here, but for this, we can just continue, and then just going to let you know that it will format those drives. We're going to say okay. Type in your username, the server name. You can name it whatever you want. We'll type in our username again, set a password, and say done. We're going to not enable Ubuntu Pro. We are going to enable install OpenSSH server because we are going to want to connect with PuTTY to make copying and pasting commands a little bit easier. Select done. We don't need any additional features at this time, so we'll do tab and done and let the install continue. Now that this is complete, we will need to detach the media. So you can select the media here and say eject Ubuntu 22.04 and then tab down to the reboot now, press enter and it will reboot. If you don't eject the disk, it will give you an error saying that basically you need to eject the disk before reboot, and you can just eject it at that point and reboot. Worst case, in some circumstances, I have had to hard reset a virtual machine to get it to boot back up in the OS if that error comes up or something funky happens. And you can just do that with this little not that button, sorry, excuse me, this little reset button right here, which I think we might do anyways. So next at this point, we are going to log in through this console, and then we're going to run the command IP space A. At this point, it will give us the IP address of this unit, that 172.22.253.8. You can download PuTTY from putty.org and then connect to it to make basically commands a little bit easier. So we'll search for PuTTY and press enter, and then we will just go ahead and load one of these in. I'll rename it Wart 01, and then I'll come in here and I will type in the IP, click the save button, and then click open. Click the accept, and then it will ask you to log in. We will say the username we created and the password and enter. And at this point, we are logged in with a PuTTY session. So we are ready to go to begin basically the process of installing the node and the wallet for Warthog. So at this point, what we need to do is go ahead and make sure that we have our system patched and updated. We can do that with a sudo apt update command. It will ask for your password again because it is elevating permissions. We'll go through that process and download the updates. From there, you can also do a sudo apt upgrade. Type Y for yes and let it upgrade all of the OS. Should be relatively short if you let it update during the install. You can press tab and OK, so it'll reboot those services. And then next we need to install git with the sudo apt install git command and press enter. Looks like it's already installed, so we're good there. And then we need to install some binaries, or basically some prerequisites, dependencies, I should say. Some of these are going to be like Mason and Ninja build, so we're going to press enter from this command. All these commands are listed for you to copy and paste out from sonofatech.locals.com if you want to make it a little bit quicker. You're going to press enter and press Y for yes. Do tab and OK. And then we are going to clone the Warthog repository from their GitHub with a git clone command and the Warthog directory on GitHub. Press enter there. It will clone it. We can run an ls command and see that Warthog is there. So next we will change directory into Warthog with a cd command. We can run an ls and just confirm that we have files there. At this point, we need to build the release. So we're going to do a Mason build and then build type release and press enter. And then we will enter the build directory with a change directory build. You can do an ls and make sure that files are here. And then we are going to run the command ninja to complete building this out. That's why we downloaded that as a prerequisite dependency earlier so that we could compile this particular project, which Warthog is in C++. So that's why you will see it compiling C++ and show you the progress bar over there on the left where it's showing the 150 out of 215. You'll just let that complete. Once completed, we need to start a screen. So we're going to start screen space -S and then space wart and press enter. And then we are going to change directory into the Warthog node files. So we'll do a change directory. And then this little tilde is basically saying go from the directory of the current user because that's where we installed it under. Run an ls and you can see we have the Wart node right here. So now we are ready to start the node. So for the node, we are just going to do a ./wart-node. You can see that it is green or yellow, which will mean that it is an executable. And then if you're wanting to mine directly to the node, you need to put the RPC equals 0.0.0.0 and then the port. This is how you will point the Janus miner to the node directly for RPC. Right now, due to the way that BZ miner works, I would recommend still using Janus hash miner, the Janus miner, for mining directly to the node, because otherwise you need to utilize the stratum. And from what we have found so far in the community, utilizing the stratum will actually find less blocks than going directly to the RPC. This is a known issue and IDOC is working on it currently. But once we have started the node, it'll kind of go ahead and run here. It'll tell you the endpoint and all of that, and then it'll start syncing. So now that we have this running, we can go ahead and do a Control+D to exit that screen. And then we are going to change directory into the wallet folder with the change directory, the tilde, and then the rest of the path here. Run an ls command, confirm the wallet is here. And at this point, we can do a ./ and then the wart wallet --C. And what this is going to do is create that wallet that you need to go ahead and utilize later for mining, even if you're mining to a pool. So we're going to press enter, and you need to keep all of this private. Obviously, this is an example, so if you recover this wallet, well, congratulations. But we are going to go ahead and copy this wallet address out right here. If you highlight in putty, which I just want to highlight the wallet address, it will copy it. At that point, you can open up a notepad real quick and paste that right here. And this will be our wallet. I do recommend, like, obviously copying everything, probably just to show you guys like this. And then you kind of have your private key and public key for recovery later if you need to recover the wallet to a new node. Just keep in mind that when you save this, you want to save it to an encrypted drive or save it to an encrypted cloud account, something like Nord Locker. I still think just a local encrypted drive is going to be the safest, or of course the absolute safest would be writing it down by hand and storing it in a fireproof safe somewhere that you can easily access. Now that we have all of this information, we can get into the mining. All right, so let's talk about mining Warthog on Hive OS. Now, it is important to note that the Warthog algorithm utilizes both CPU and GPU. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a single GPU to a single CPU. It depends on how powerful the CPU is in relation to how powerful the GPU is and how many lanes you have available to that CPU. A good rule of thumb is at least a by 8 lane, similar to something with a proof of useful work setup that you may be building for AI or something along those lines. Now, the setup can basically have you putting 2 GPUs into a single CPU if the CPU is powerful enough. You'll have to play with this and test it. A lot of testing is being done over on locals at sonofatech.locals.com, as well as in the Warthog Discord. So if you're looking for guidance, please check those out. I'm only going to be covering how to set it up. If you are looking to use a traditional mining rig like an octo miner, this will not function. So don't even think about trying to mine with 12 GPUs in an octo miner with a Celeron CPU. It just won't be efficient. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is go over basically creating the flight sheet. So we'll go over to our flight sheets and we will select our coin, typing in Wart. We will then add our wallet, go to the notepad where we copied the address down, copy that address out over here and put it in here. And then we can save as global wallet if we have multiple farms and want to. It probably won't fetch balance, but you could select that for the future if you like as well. And then our wallet's added. Next, we'll select pool. Today, I'm going to be utilizing Woolly Pool, but a disclaimer, ACC pool and Woolly Pool, I don't have a leaning either way. Willy Pool did have some weird stuff happen with kaspa in the past, so it's important to note that they don't have a fully clean track record at this time, to be clear. I'm going to go ahead and select USA PPLNS and click apply. And then for the miner, it's BZ Miner, because that is the only miner that supports this at this time. We're going to go ahead and click create flight sheet, and then we can go to our worker here, which you can see is utilizing a 12th gen i9 12900K and an RTX 4070 Super. We can go to our flight sheets and just click the little flight sheet button here, and it will begin to mine. You can see I'm already mining it, and you will see basically the number for Warthog up here, which is the 737.9, but that doesn't really tell the entire story. You are going to need to start a remote session, either via a web shell if you're on the local network, or remote access via Hive shell on the an external network. So if we log into here with default user and 1, if we're on the local network, we can run the miner command and open it up, and you will see that we have additional details here. Right now, though, it does look like we don't get as many details as we would get on something like Janus Hash, because in fact, what we would actually see here, to be clear, if we were logged in with Janus Hash Miner, is that we would see the CPU and then we would see the GPU. Now, we do see the CPU showing up here as 36.59 mega hash a second, and then we see the Janus hash rate at 719. To calculate profitability, we'll use the Janus hash rate, which is combining essentially the hash rates of the GPU and the CPU for what's known as the Janus score, or what would come up in that. And then you would technically have two separate hash rates that are showing for your GPU, which in this case, I'm not seeing where it's showing the separate GPU hash rate necessarily, but you'd have one for the GPU and then you'd have one separate for the CPU. You can see we're utilizing 24 processors here. This particular system could probably run a couple more GPUs, or at least one more GPU on it with a 12900K, for example. But like I said, it's going to be playing those games, so it is a little complicated. Where you can go ahead and check this, though, is on the Warthog Block Explorer at wartscan.io is what it is now. They did redirect that now. There's a mining calculator here. It doesn't include power, so you will have to calculate your power separately, but we could take our Janus hash rate of 755.23, and this is in gigahash, so it'll be 0.755, and then we can press enter, and we can see that this particular system right now will be utilizing, or basically profiting about, or not profiting, generating revenue of almost $3 a day on an RTX 4070 Super, which is about 5 wart per day at the current price. Obviously, you want to check this, so keep this in your system as you may. Right now, as far as GPU mining goes, the Warthog blockchain is looking extremely profitable, with that caveat of not being able to run like 8 GPUs on the network. This should, in theory, be better for decentralization, though, as well as price and distribution of the token later on down the line. So I'm all for it. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on it down in the description below. If you found this helpful, please hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. Don't forget to check out sonofatech.locals.com for the written guides, as well as the guide on how to solo mine it. I'll do a solo mining guide for YouTube video form later on, so make sure you hit the subscribe button for that, and I will see you next Tuesday.